Righty, so news of the week on this Thursday afternoon, and I think from now on I'll probably do it on Thursday in terms of news of the week instead of Wednesday because I notice all the news that I usually talk about happen between Monday and Thursday, and then the weekends are usually news regarding to the upcoming games and then the games that is over and kind of just the post match analysis kind of talk. So yeah, I think it would make sense for me to do it on a Thursday, a day before we get to talk about all these games that's happening in the weekend's action. But there was some big news that came out of yesterday in regards to the MLS All Star game. So this year it will be MLS All Star versus Arsenal. That's going to be taking place at Audi Field on July 19th. So this basically do away the MLS All Star versus Liga MX All Star that we've been having for the past 2 years. Now there's been some mixed reaction. I mean, some have said that it's a good idea, but some don't like it, and I'm kind of one of those person because I do enjoy the MLS All Star versus Liga MX All Star, especially after attending it last year in Minnesota. But I can understand why they decided to do this because you already have the League Cup, you already have so many competition that MLS and Liga MX have decided to kind of partner with each other and having teams face off against each other in all these kind of tournament that it will be a little bit more redundant once again if it's MLS All Star versus Liga MX All Star. With that being said, I also feel like they should have thought about bringing back the East versus West kind of format. I mean, I know that bring a European team, it's going to get the eyeball in terms of this games, but because this is happening in DC, and DC United has a huge history in terms of them in the league. I feel like they could have just used the East versus West kind of format just for some nostalgia reason, but as of now, it doesn't seem like that is going to be the case. And that it seems like we're going back to the old format where it's basically the MLS All Star playing against a European giant, and that of course is the case with Arsenal, which I mean, depending on how you look at it, they could be a European giant. I mean, they are leading the Premier League this season, so we could see a situation where if Arsenal does win the Premier League, you could see the MLS All Star team facing against them. Yeah. Moving on in terms of the next news, we did have some signings that has happened in the past couple of days, and the one signing that I think it happened yesterday or was it today was Minnesota United signing Korean forward Sung Bin Jung from Wolves on loan from Grasshopper, which an interesting thing about that is that that's exactly the same path that Leo Campana basically came to MLS. So it's kind of interesting that we see there's a similar kind of type of player that takes that same path to come to MLS. But yeah, there's a lot of good things says about him. There's even some say that he is the Korean Mbappe, which we'll see about that once we see him play with this team. And obviously, unfortunately, he's not going to be part of this team in this upcoming game against the Whitecaps. I mean, as much as I want to, because this team, the Loons, along with pretty much every single MLS team, are going to lose some player because of the international break. Once again, disrupting the MLS regular season, where teams are going to lose player because of that. But yeah, I think once he does get his work visa done, which they said it could be as soon as next week, he should be a vital part of this team. Mostly, I think he's going to be playing in the wing. I mean, I know he can play in that number 9 position, but I do think it's probably going to be either Mender Garcia or Luis Amaria that's going to be starting at top, and then you got potentially Robin Lud and some Sung Ben Jun on the other side. But it's also good to see Korean player. I would always love to see more Asian player come to MLS. I mean, we have seen it before. We have seen a couple of Korean player that has come to MLS. But yeah, it's great to see that we're once again gonna get that. And this is South Korean I'm talking about, not to kind of be a little bit too political about it. But moving on, we got Austin FC signing center back Alexander Patavonic on loan from Belgium international KV Kushvit. I have just absolutely butchered that name, but we'll go with that. But yeah, this is definitely a signing that Austin desperately needed. I mean, I don't know a lot about him. I'm not sure whether or not if he's good or not, but for Austin, they'll take what they can get because I've talked about how this team has has issue in terms of the center back depth. I mean, after losing Julio Cascante, they really do not have a good option in that center back position. I mean, it seems like they are probably banishing Kip Keller after that one bad game that he had on opening week, and they especially banish Amaro Tarek after that disastrous class that he had against Violet in CCL. So yeah, they desperately need a center back. They can't just keep putting Alex Rain as their makeshift center back. So yeah, we'll see how this is going to go. I mean, it, depending on how it's going to be, it can't be any worse than what the situation that they have. And plus, it's also kind of a low risk but high reward kind of situation where they said that his loan deal runs all the way to June 30th. So if he doesn't work out, then they can move on from him. And I think they should be. I mean, I don't remember if Julio Cascante, when is he going to be back? I think he is going to be out for some time, but I don't think it's kind of a season-ending injury. So that also kind of factors why they decided to make this loan to not at the end of the season, only until the summer. Now, speaking of defenders, CF Montreal is bringing back Italian defender Gabriele Probo on a permanent deal, and I think this is just for depth reason because you always want to booster that backline depth. I mean, there's so many teams right now in MLS is having some problem in terms of center back depth. So I think Montreal is saying that, hey, why not bring one of our utility defender back in this team? He's been spending time on loan with Bologna, and that it's not a big surprise that another Bologna player has decided to come to CF Montreal because the owner of CF Montreal, Joey Saputo, also owns Bologna. But speaking of defenders, the LA Galaxy has officially signed Julian Aldi from Argentine Premier Division side Atletico Nice. Now, the last time I talked about this is before the season, and there's been talks of the whole visa situation and them probably not going to get this done before the season has gone. But it seems like now, a couple of weeks later, they have got this over the line, and it's also going to be interesting to see whether they do get the paperwork all figured out, that he can be a vital part to this Galaxy team because I think he's definitely going to be a regular starters. Right now, in terms of the left back position, they have Raheem Edwards there, but Raheem Edwards is not really a left back; is more useful on the wing area. So with this signing, I think that will push him for the wing area, and then Julian Alde will be slot right into that left back spot, and we'll see whether if this is gonna go well. Now, Nashville SC have signed midfielder Jan Gregoric off of free agency. Great to see Jan Gregoric still is in the league. He's always been one of my favorite players, especially during his time with Minnesota United. And also, not to mention, he also gave me his jersey in one of the games that I've attended between I think it was Minnesota versus RSL, that he actually gave me his game worn jersey when the Loons were playing RSL. So when that of course happened, you're gonna give give instant love from me, and that's good to see that he is still in the league and now will be used definitely more as a depth piece for this Nashville side. That I think in the midfield position they should be pretty good in that spot, but knowing the fact that they do have a couple of guys that are kind of in their 30s and probably ain't gonna play every single minute, I think having young Gregory slotting in there will be a decent kind of backup option. Now, LAFC is report that they are in advanced talk to bring Polish youth international Mateusz Bocic on loan from UD Pizza. Now, what's interesting about this is that this was actually a rumor back before the season began, and it was actually the Galaxy, the one that was in talk to trying to bring him. So now it seems like it's LAFC time to trying to bring him, and clearly this is definitely a signing that they need, knowing the fact that if they do lose Jose Cifuentes in the middle of the summer, which is a high possibility because I have heard there's a lot of offer that LAFC has received to get Jose Cifuentes, and I think he could be sold during the summer. Then this will definitely be the replacement, and we'll see whether if it is going to be a decent replacement, because anytime you have to replace the quality that Jose Cifuentes has meant to this LAFC team, it's not going to be easy. Now, the Houston Dynamo is also finalizing the acquisition of Danish center back Eric Savichenko from FC Midtjylland. what's interesting about this club that he is from is that this is the same club that Evander came from, and now is part of the Portland Timbers. But yeah, he's also a guy that I've heard has been a regular starter for that team. He is a 31 years old Danish center back, and that center back position is definitely one area that the Dynamo desperately needed. I mean, that was probably the biggest weakness coming in to this season, and I think getting this guy, he's going to at least solidify that back line in in a way that will not cause this Dynamo team to kind of leak goals left and right that I thought they were going to be expecting coming into this season. Now, moving on, in the next news, we talk about some contract extension. We got the Philadelphia Union signing two players to contract extension. First, they signed Nathan Harrio to a contract extension, and then they signed Jacob Glesnes to a contract extension. Now, I thought that they already signed Jacob Glesnes to a contract extension earlier this season, but I guess maybe they just want to add another year or two into his contract extension. But nevertheless, well deserved. I mean, he is considered to be one of the best defender in the league and was literally the best defender of the league last year, winning the Defender of the Year. And Nathan Harrio, a good backup option for this Union team in fullback position. Speaking of defender, CF Montreal also signed defender Joel Waterman to a contract extension. Now, this is kind of interesting because there's been a law offer that CF Montreal received this winter for Joel Waterman, and I guess maybe they just want to lock down into a contract extension, knowing the fact that he's probably not going to be playing all the way to his contract extension. But it's just a way where if you're going to get him, then yeah, you're going to have to pay a transfer fee and not allow his contract or not allowed to wait until his contract it is going to run out. So definitely smart business for Montreal to do that. And again, Joel Waterman, he was sensational last season for this Montreal side, part of a really good stable backline that Montreal has last season. Though this year, not as much. I mean, it's been kind of a slow start for in that back line for Montreal and just in general for the team. It's been a bit of a slow start. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, we're going to talk about injuries news because there was a lot of injuries that has happened this week. We start off with the Columbus Crew. They are going to be without Kevin Molino for 6 to 8 weeks to a knee injury, and I feel like at this point, I won't be surprised if Kevin Molino eventually announced his retirement because him alongside with Courtney Ford are probably the most snake bitten player in terms of injuries this season. I mean, it is just incredible how much that he's been injured and that, I know it during the time when he was with Minnesota where, the thing with Kevin Molino is that if he can stay healthy, he can be a decent player. But when he's out with injury so many times, like what we have seen him throughout his career with the Loons and now with Columbus, I mean, again, I just wonder, and knowing the fact that Molino is getting up to his 30s, maybe he might think about hanging the boots because it has to be very frustrating for him to have to come back from setback after setback that he has been suffering really pretty much throughout his whole career in MLS. Now, the Columbus Crew also look like they're not going to be with Cucho Hernandez at least for a couple of weeks. I mean, they already talk about how they were going to be missing Cucho Hernandez at least in the last game, but now it seems like we know exactly the length, as Wilfred Nancy says that they're not going to have their star-studded striker for 3 to 5 weeks, and that kind of sucks for Columbus too because again, they really miss the quality that he brings to this team. I mean, Lucas Arian can do so much until he really needs another guy like Cucho Hernandez that can be a dynamic goal scorer for this team. So definitely a tough break for the Crew, and again, already started to suffer. I wouldn't say in the same extent of the injury crisis that they had in the 2021 season. I mean, it's that injury crisis that the Crew had in the 2021 season is one of the worst injury crises we've seen a team that has gone through. But so far, it's kind of started to get to that point with them losing key guys left and right. Now, speaking of striker, the Vancouver Whitecaps will also be without one of their striker in Sergio Cordova. He's going to be sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks for a right hamstring strain. So that means that they're going to be forced to play Brian White every game. And so far, Brian White, I talked about before, he can only score in the CONCACAF Champions League. Apparently, this season in league plays, he has been as snake bitten as it gets, and that's gonna frustrate a lot of Whitecaps fans, knowing the fact that they're gonna have to see Brian White play in that position. I mean, I will say that Cordova, he hasn't really been that good with the Whitecaps ever since he's come in, and again, it's kind of almost something similar to doing his time with RSL last season, where he kind of got off to a slow start, but then eventually it clicked, and this of course will not help his cause if you want to rediscover that with him being sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks, and that maybe this will maybe make the Whitecaps think about getting another striker, because it's pretty clear that Brian White probably is not the answer in terms of the number 9 position that this team has been just searching for a very long time for the past couple of years. Now, the Quakes also had some injury problems too, as their goalkeeper Daniel is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury. So there's no doubt that that's kind of the reason why JT Marcinkowski has been starting. I mean, I thought when JT Marcinkowski came in, I thought, okay, it looks like maybe the Quakes finally decided that Daniel is not the answer with the wildness that he had in the first 2 games. But no, it's because he's been suffering a knee injury for 4 to 6 weeks. And unfortunately, during the time that JT Marcinkowski has been with this team, I mean, he's been okay. I mean, he hasn't. He's kind of almost like the way that he's been performed during these last couple of games in place of Daniel is kind of what I expect of JT Marcinkowski. He can sometimes make some incredible save, and then there's times where he just made some boneheaded decision that, yeah, just makes me very frustrated about him, and that is kind of unfortunate for him in the sense that, as a goalkeeper, you want to make sure you don't want to be inconsistent, because if you're inconsistent, then it's basically equal that you're not a good starting goalkeeper. So yeah, again, I feel like the Quakes, again, there might be in a goalkeeping situation once again, and that maybe this is kind of the, again, even when if Daniel does come back, it's gonna take a while for me to see if he is going to be decent, because again, for the first couple of games there was some craziness in regards to him making some really kind of interesting decision at times that almost cost this team a go into, and that, yeah, it kind of sucks the fact that the Quakes will now have a goalkeeping conundrum again, because I know that the Quakes have had that issue, especially a certain guy that also is called Daniel, that was the goalkeeper for this team, and that like, I even kind of make a joke about it when I did like the recap a couple of weeks ago, about how, oh well, looks like they signed a goalkeeper called Daniel, but is he gonna be like Daniel Vega, or is he gonna be a good kind of Daniel? Now, moving on in the next news, and this is a news I've already mentioned, but I'll just mention it again just for news sake, is that the Colorado Rapids captain Jack Price, he's done for the season with a ruptured Achilles tendon. Just a brutal injury for Jack Price to suffer, especially if him just coming back from an injury and now he's done for the season because of it. And that, again, so far this season, it's already been a bad start for the Colorado Rapids. This is just adding salt to the wound, seeing their leader being out for the season, and it's going to be very tough for this team to try to overcome this if they can for the remaining part of the season. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and now kind of finally done with injuries news, because man, there was a lot of injury news I had to go over this week. But there are sources saying that MLS will officially announce that San Diego will be the next MLS team in December. Now, I'm not sure exactly how good this source is, but the league have been mentioning the fact that they are going to name the 30th team sooner or later this season. And from what we heard, it seems like San Diego is going to be that team, because for a while we thought Las Vegas was that team, but it's been very quiet in the Las Vegas front in terms of them coming into MLS, to a point where there's been a lot of noises from the San Diego side, and especially with the way that San Diego technically have already have a ready stadium, and that it seems like they're planning to play out of Snapdragon Stadium, the same stadium that the women's team, the San Diego Waves, are playing, and having a really good success too. I've heard that their NWSL team, the Waves, have actually sold about 25,000 tickets for their season opener. Yeah, this is definitely a city that is starred in terms of a professional team, and it's no surprise because San Diego, you know, um, for a long time, a lot of residents would just go across the border to watch Cholos play in Liga MX. So I think it was kind of about time that eventually San Diego would get a team, and that it seems like it could be sooner or later. Though again, we'll see whether or not if the sources is correct that announcement could be made as soon as December of this year. And then finally, before we talk about the power rankings, just a reminder: MLS Next Pro returned this week, so we're gonna see a lot of MLS Next Pro teams playing this week. In fact, all of them are going to be involving. Now, I was thinking about going to the Quakes 2 match against the Galaxy, kind of a Cali Clasico in the MLS Next Pro, but I eventually decided not to because I know that I still have to do the review of the weekend's action, and since that game is taking place at 5 o'clock, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have time to basically go to that game and then also return home to do the review. I mean, if I do have it, it's gonna be a bit of a time crunch, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, I'll probably just go to another Quakes 2 game in the near future. It's always great to see some of these players in the Quakes 2 system, and especially with the way that I do have a very good interest with the Quakes 2 teams because of the way that it can showcase how good this Quakes Academy is. That is has been labeled as now potentially an up and coming academy in MLS, and also not to mention the fact that there could be some familiar names coming from that Quakes 2 team that could be in a big part of the senior team in the future too. But lastly, we're going to talk about the power rankings, and we're just going to go over for in terms of the top 10. At number one, we still have LAFC at the top spot, and at number two is FC Cincinnati. But then at number three, yes, St. Louis. They have now made it their way into the top three, and I won't be surprised if they keep winning. They might as well just end up in the number one spot because they are the best team in the league and leading the supporter show after all. But at number four, we got Atlanta United. I'm pretty sure Atlanta fans are not going to be happy about that, even though they think that they should be even at number two or even at number one because of how well they've been playing. But then we got the Seattle Sounders dropping to fifth spot, and then dropping into the sixth spot, we got the Philadelphia Union. The Union has been struggling in the last couple of games in league play, and keep in mind the power rankings does not include the CONCACAF Champions League. At seven, we got New England moving up, followed by NYCFC in 8th place, Nashville in ninth place, and then rounding out the top 10, we have FC Dallas, who I think last week they were in the 10th spot, and they remains in the 10th spot despite getting the win against Sporting KC. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week for this week. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news on the board, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.